I understand I'm following Mario Capecci. I'm not nervous though. And one thing I can assure you is that there's no danger that I will be recycling the Nobel Prize acceptance speech. So you've got that going for you. All right, as mentioned, I'm a philosopher in the Department of Philosophy. My undergrad actually is a double major in biology and philosophy, and my PhD actually was also biology and philosophy. Part of the Center for Population Biology at UC Davis, as well as the philosophy department. Correlation of history and evolution, in a very, very, very loose sense, I guess that is what I'm talking about. I was a little confused what I was actually supposed to talk about. I'm going to be talking about on human nature. And I'm going to talk about how our conception of human nature has changed due to the acceptance of Darwin's theory. And I think there's actually a real strong component of history in there. One thing Darwin's theory does is it forces us to rethink the role of history in who we are. So with that kind of vague opening, let me begin. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first try to explain a little bit what philosophy of biology is. Just give a real quick overview of what it is, how I got interested in it, and what it means. I'll then give a little brief history of what people thought about human nature, especially what kind of biology, what kind of biological views of human nature there were, and not just human nature, but the nature of any kind of species, prior to evolutionary thinking. For those of you who kind of know the history, you'll see it's a really rough and ready account of it. I'll then talk about what evolutionary thinking is, and go through different modes of thinking that biologists who are committed to evolutionary thinking, in particular Darwinian evolution, typically are committed to today. Then we'll go through an important thesis called the individuality thesis that was actually formulated in part by a graduate of the University of Utah, Michael Giesland, who's gone on to be a Mark MacArthur Fellow. I think this is a really important thesis, and I think it embodies and captures the different modes of thinking that we're going to go through. Then we're going to step back again and ask, well, given all this stuff about human nature, or given all the stuff we just learned about biology, it forces us to rethink what human nature is in an evolutionary world. So I'm not meaning to suggest, although some of the slides look like that, they're supposed to be playful, I'm not meaning to suggest that human nature has changed from a couple thousand years ago to today, but our understanding of it has. Okay. So philosophy of biology. I think of philosophy of biology as two concurrent projects. So on the one hand, it's what can philosophers learn by taking biology seriously and trying to learn about what biology tells us about the world. On the other hand, philosophy of biology also offers a means of contributing to biology from a philosophical point of view. So let me elaborate a little more on that. In philosophy, there's lots of ways of doing philosophy, and one school of thought that I'm pretty committed to is a naturalistic way of doing things. That is taking seriously what science tells us about the world and trying to think about how that informs us about philosophical problems. And you're going to be seeing that a little bit this evening. To do that, though, means you really need to know the facts. So philosophers of biology, hopefully, get training in biology and learn biology to a pretty sophisticated degree. Not as sophisticated and not as specific as biologists do, but hopefully enough that we can actually converse with biologists and understand the literature and understand what biologists are claiming about the world. The other side of things, I think of science as applied philosophy. So some of you may know that science used to also be called natural philosophy. And I think of science as philosophers who are committed to a very particular set of principles about how to understand the world, both in terms of metaphysical commitments and epistemological. Or metaphysical means what there is in the world, what kind of stuff there is. And epistemological means what we can learn, what it means to know something. So I think of scientists and biologists as doing a very particular and very specialized and successful kind of philosophy. And that's all fine and good. That doesn't really tell you how philosophers might contribute to biology. There's a lot of debates in biology that are conceptual or foundational problems. And empirical facts aren't going to answer it. times there's a debate over what even counts as data in those fields. And that's where philosophers, or at least biologists who are doing philosophy, can make a lot of headway, or can cause a lot of trouble. So those of you familiar with the species debate, there's the debate about what it is for something to be a species. We're going to brush up against that. That was one option for the talk today. I'm not really going to get into that today. But there's lots of debates about what it means to be a species. There are lots of views on that. And those of you taking biology, and I see some professors here, so I'm assuming you will teach this, right? There's lots of different ways that biologists have thought about what species are that fall out of the theory of evolution. So, for example, species are interbreeding groups of populations, or species are parts of phylogenetic trees, specific lineages. Now, it turns out those don't always match up to one another. But facts alone don't tell you which of those is the right concept for being a species. And so there's philosophical debates, although it's not often called a philosophical debate, that happen in biology. So those are the kind of projects, the kind of things that philosophers of biology do. And now I'm going to make a pitch for philosophy of biology. Those of you who find the talk interesting, I'd really encourage you to think about taking some of the classes that we offer in the philosophy department. We have one of the leading philosophy of biology departments in the world here. We have 4 people who are dedicated to philosophy of biology and offer lots of classes. Those are just a couple of them. One in particular that I taught last semester is co-listed in biology, and it's on building evolutionary trees. I teach at Pat Cornelia, and it's a really fun class. So if you're interested in phylogenetics and systematics, you should think about taking that next time it comes around. Also, I want to invite everybody to this conference that we're going to be hosting this summer. It's the International Society for History, Philosophy, and Social Studies of Biology, pronounced Ishkasud. We pronounce it Ishkabibble because we have no way of pronouncing that. It's really a lousy name, but it's a great organization. So I'd really invite everybody here to think about attending that. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be tons and tons of talks. We'll probably have 400 or 500 scholars from around the world coming here to present papers and posters. Okay, so that's philosophy of biology. Let's get on to some philosophy. Okay. As you can read, that's Aristotle, or bust of Aristotle. Aristotle, in a lot of ways, is the first modern biologist. And it's a funny thing to say, because he didn't believe in evolution, and he didn't really do the kinds of experiments we think of as experiments. But a lot of Aristotle's work, although it's not necessarily what you would study in some philosophy classes, is dedicated to biology, and trying to catalog all the things, all the natural things in the world, and trying to make sense of them, trying to make sense of how they're organized, and try to explain why we see the kind of diversity that we see. And that's really one of the central problems of biology. How do we explain the diversity that we see in the natural world? Now, Aristotle rejected evolution for lots of reasons. Some of the main reasons he rejected it have to do with deeper metaphysical commitments about what things are in the world. And one way of thinking about that is his characterization of what count as natural kinds. Now, this is going to be a little fast here. We have whole classes on this kind of thing. But to Aristotle, species were exemplary examples. Exemplary would be an example. Paradigmatic natural kinds. That is, if you want to know what a natural kind is, look to species. And he thought that for any